On the program today, we will continue with what we started last week, the series we started last week on transnational efforts to curb human trafficking and modern slavery. Despite the abolition of slave trade today, people are still engaged in slavery through human trafficking, resulting in modern slavery. This is a multi-billion-dollar illicit market which continues to attract more prospective traffickers who apparently defy all international checks to curb them. Victims of human trafficking and modern slavery are often deceived with promises of enhanced working conditions, improved welfare, even as these promises gradually fade away and the reality of slavery kicks in. Many of the victims are led into sexual exploitation, forced labor, domestic servitude, child begging, and sometimes, in a worst case scenario, organ harvesting by the traffickers. Joining us on the program today, live from London, is as we look at international collaborations against human trafficking and modern slavery, is Jasmine O'Connor. Jasmine is the CEO of Anti-Slavery International UK. And Anti-Slavery International UK is a registered UK charity and advocacy group founded in 1839. In fact, it is the world's oldest international human rights organization. And from Abuja, the federal capital of Nigeria, also Director General of Nigeria's National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons, NATIP, Julie Okadonli. Today, before we go to Issue Global Tidbit, we'll go to our guest first, and thereafter we'll take our Issue Global Tidbit with our diplomatic correspondent. Let me quickly turn to my guests live that are joining us on the program today. Jasmine O'Connor, and the CEO of Anti-Slavery International, and also Julie Okadonli. Let me start with Julie Oka. Julie, thank you for joining us on the program today. Julie, quickly talk us through efforts by international organizations to curb human trafficking and, of course, deal with modern slavery before we go to Jasmine in London.
Yes, thank you very much. First of all, let me say that Nigeria has got the political will to fight human trafficking, and therefore we have an agency called the National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons, whose mandate it is to fight all forms of trafficking against persons. Now we have a total, a package when it comes to fighting human trafficking, and this is very rare. It's not common in a lot of countries, I can tell you that. A lot of countries are beginning to come to Nigeria, to learn from us. We have a situation where we arrest offenders on the one hand, and on the other hand, we rehabilitate the victims of trafficking. We have shelters where victims are kept, they are rehabilitated, they are counseled, they are given medical support, they are also empowered at the end of the day. The idea is for the victims not to get re-trafficked. And of course, we prosecute the offenders. So we have this, end to end. We have the whole of government and the whole of society approach. We partner with government in all forms. We partner with our international partners, international law enforcement agencies, international development partners. We partner with local law enforcement here, the NGOs, the CSOs, the media. Everyone has a role to play. We carry out mass awareness campaigns on the social media, radio, TV, you name it. So we ensure that we prevent human trafficking, we protect victims of trafficking, and we prosecute the traffickers.
Julie, thanks a lot. That appears to be a very good action and some policy statements you have put out there. But it still does appear that Nigeria is still a very strong transit point among the other sub-Saharan West African countries for trafficking. Just lately we just had some people who just came back from Lebanon, and we still have stories of people being moved out of Nigeria, Ghana, and other sub-Saharan Africa, especially Nigeria being the transit point. Is it that this collaboration with those agencies, the police, the media, international agencies, are not very effective, or what is actually the problem?
Well, I'm not going to shy away from the fact that there's massive collaboration, there's massive corruption, that is also involved in all of this. Because don't forget, they have to go through a certain means. They go with through the agents and all of that. Now, there's a lot of deceit as well. These girls sincerely believe they are going to get good jobs, and when they get there, they find out that it's not what they thought, So it's like the trafficking starts at the point of destination when they realize that they've been deceived. So we have these agents who are working with, who have their cronies embedded in the various law enforcement agencies. There's absolutely nothing you can do about that but to flush them out, And then we, on our part, we've been able to expel at least 6 officers who were found working closely with traffickers, And if everyone else does the same thing, we'll be able to bring that to the barest minimum. So there are so many factors. There's corruption factor. There's factors of deceit. There's factors of ignorance. A lot of them are actually ignorant. There's factors of lack of education, which makes them to think that anything outside their country is the best. Most of these girls are not schooled. They've never even left their countries before. Unfortunately, we still have those who are educated, but who don't really know better. They are really ignorant and believe they can just go to any part of the world and start working legitimately. So these are the issues that we come to terms with, and we keep carrying out awareness campaigns. It's a work in progress. It's not a one-off exercise. It's something that we keep doing and will continue to do until we're able to bring it down to the barest minimum.
All right, thank you, Julie. Julie is the Director General of Nigeria's National Policy for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons, NAPTIP. Julie, let me quickly go to London, as I have Jasmine on the line. Jasmine, let me ask you, you head an organization that's one of the oldest, in fact the oldest human rights organization in the world. Tell me, why is it that nations have not paid significant attention to the global problems of human trafficking, that we still have this problem still going on? Are nations not paying enough attention to the problem?
Well, I think the first thing to say is that slavery is illegal in every country in the world, but we still have 40 million people at least trapped in slavery. So whether organisations and governments are paying enough attention or not, it's not working. We haven't solved the problem, as it were. I think that one of the challenges is that sometimes the international laws haven't been domesticated. So not every country has got the right set of legal instruments to be working on and holding, having the kind of measures in place then to implement those laws. And I think once you've got the laws in place, implementing them and making sure that you've got the sort of multi-stakeholder partnerships that the previous speaker was talking about in order to tackle the problem. So I think some countries have shown political will, others haven't shown as much political will, but undoubtedly we all need to show more collaboration and more effort across the board, because as the previous speaker alluded to, it's an enormously challenging problem. The root causes of slavery, which find themselves in sort of lack of education, lack of opportunity, the sorts of myths that people might hear that enable them to sort of make the step to move into a situation where they might actually end up being tricked and trafficked. And so really, in short, yes, there's some political will, but we need a lot more effort.
I've just spoken with Julie there in Abuja, capital of Nigeria. While some West African countries are the transit point for trafficking, UK is among the top 10 destinations in the world for human trafficking. What is your own organization doing in terms of establishing or collaborating with governments around the world to ensure that people who traffic, who engage in this, do not have a safe place, a safe ground to get people from around the world? Those people that are in poverty in Africa, in the Middle East, and have been tricked into coming into the UK and eventually end up becoming sex slaves or becoming servants. What is your organization doing in partnership with government?
Well, I think the first thing to say is that we work very closely with our own government, and we are, always keeping an eye on what's happening and trying to advocate in particular for the lives of individuals who have been tricked and have been either trafficked to the UK or have been, fallen into exploitation once they've been in the UK. The UK government was one of the first governments internationally to introduce a Modern Slavery Act. That was in 2015. But we must do much better, particularly by the sort of lives of those victims and those survivors. One of the things that I think we need to do a lot more in the UK at a policy level and at a government level is to listen to the reality of what it is to be trafficked by survivors, and to make sure that they are treated as victims and survivors and aren't caught up in the sort of criminal challenges around their right to be in the country. So creating a kind of firewall, if you like, around the immigration issues to make sure that victims are really treated as victims and supported as survivors to have what they need to look after themselves and to be able to get their rights in place. In addition to that, there's got to be international cooperation and more work done to look at safe routes for migration for work, and then secondly tackling those root causes. So creating awareness in communities that if you intend, for example, to come to the UK to work, let's see, what the reality of that is like. Let's look at making sure that your rights are met, and making sure that actually individuals have a choice and don't get caught into the sorts of hands of traffickers and don't get tricked.
Right, let me go to Abuja, actually. But one of the root causes of human trafficking is, of course, poverty. When people are poor, when the basic issues of life become extremely difficult for people to live by and get going, they can easily be deceived. What is your government doing, the government of Nigeria, and of course generally in African country, to ensure that people, those that are victims, are not easily lobbied out of their countries with the sweet tongue of which you're gonna have a good job in London, or you're gonna have a good job in Lebanon, or you're just gonna have a good job, a good home, a well-paid job somewhere in China, and at the end of the day they either have their organs harvested, or they become they get into sex exploitation. What is the government of Nigeria doing in partnership with other sub-Saharan government to ensure the basic needs of life are available so that people are not tricked out?
Like I said earlier on, the fight against human trafficking is a fight that involves the whole of government. And the whole of government also includes the local governments, the state governments. The state governments have a very huge role to play. The federal government cannot do this alone. Don't forget, first of all of these girls come from a particular state. So the state governments will do well to ensure that primary and secondary school education is free and compulsory. They have to also ensure that the mothers, who are the mothers of these victims, are well empowered. The rural women are empowered, because these are the mothers of these victims who go out there because they want to take care of their mothers. And so when the government, lives up to its responsibility at the state level and the local government level, we will not be having so much of this to say. Yes, there are instances of also ignorance, abduction, greed, even on the part of some of these girls, because some of them actually sold their belongings and they had jobs. They actually resigned from their jobs, sold their belongings and traveled. On the part of the federal government, they've come up with a lot of social intervention programs. They've come up with the Empower to empower the youth. They've come up with the JEEP program. They've come up with the school feeding, as a shock measure. measure, social investment programs, just to, to ensure that they make life at least bearable, to as many people as possible. So here we need the state governments, local governments also complementing the efforts of the federal government of Nigeria. We also have the NGOs, the CSOs, coming together to ensure that they work closely with us. And that's just the way it should be.
All right. Okay. Before I go on this very short break, let me quickly go to Jasmine in London. Jasmine, tell us, how well is the UK government closing the loopholes that are being used by certain individuals and companies to bring in what they call house helpers? If you're a company or if you're an individual, the immigration system allows you to bring in people to help you with stuff at home, and eventually they use that legal system to bring in a whole lot of innocent girls who end up in servitude, and some in sex exploitation. How is your organization relating with government, the UK visa agencies, to ensure they close these loopholes?
So I think where people are coming into the country through a sort of safe migration route, then what we're calling for is the right kind of inspections and protections for workers, to make sure that employers are being held to a standard of the right level of labour law. When that doesn't happen, and when actually an individual does fall into exploitation, then we do have a sort of referral mechanism to support that individual to get their rights met, and that I think is the main mechanism. From our perspective, our focus as an anti-slavery charity is making sure that mechanism works, is making sure that potential victims and victims who are actual victims know about that and understand that they can go to an authority if they're being exploited, and they can raise their concerns. The challenge, of course, is if they do not have the right legal immigration papers, then a lot of individuals are going to feel very frightened to come forward to the authorities in the first place. And so we call for a real firewall to be around the immigration issues, so that fear doesn't get in the way of an individual coming forward and being supported if indeed they have fallen into exploitation.
Absolutely. Julie, Jasmine and Julie, we need to go on a very short break now. When we come back from the short break, I'm going to be asking both of you, if we do have victims that are watching this program and they are afraid or they need to speak to somebody, I want you guys to give us a kind of a contact. If you have victims in the UK or across Europe watching this program and they need to get in touch with your organization or with NAPTIP. When we come back from the short break, we'll be talking about how can victims reach out to you guys and then have some safe landing. We'll go on a very short break now. When we come back from the short break, I still have my guest in the studio, Jasmine O'Connor. Jasmine is the CEO of Anti-Slavery International UK, the oldest human rights organization in the UK, in the world, and I also have in the studio with me Julie Okadonli, who is the DG of Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Person. We'll go on this short break. We'll be back. Don't go away.
No. New Zealand's Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern announced that the current level 3 coronavirus restrictions in Auckland and level 2 restrictions in the rest of the country will be extended for 12 more days. He said at the end of the extended lockdown that he expects to have identified and isolated the cluster so Auckland can return to level 2. The United States reported 51,443 new COVID-19 cases and 1,076 deaths on Thursday, according to Johns Hopkins University. There are at least 5,248,854 COVID-19 cases and 167,110 people have died from the virus in the United States. The total includes cases from all 50 states, the District of Columbia, and other U.S. territories, as well as repatriated cases. India says it is opening an air corridor with Maldives to boost tourism and revenue even as the country sees rising cases of COVID-19. The first flight under the new arrangement is expected to take off on August 18. India reported more than 64,500 coronavirus cases on Friday. The Indian Medical Association has written a letter to the Prime Minister Narendra Modi expressing the rising concern of safety of doctors during this COVID-19 crisis, saying that almost 200 doctors have died across the country because of the virus. Brazil's President Jair Bolsonaro says the country is in a privileged situation compared to most other countries when it comes to the pandemic's impact on the economy. The president made the remarks during his weekly Facebook Live webcast on Thursday. Despite Brazil having the second highest death toll globally, Bolsonaro advocated for the entire country to be reopened and explained how he expects the Brazilian economy to recover until the end of the year if it continues to open up.
All right, welcome back. You're still watching the program Democratic Lessons, and we're looking at international collaborations in dealing with human trafficking and, of course, modern slavery. As you have joining me in the studio here, Jasmine, the CEO of Anti-Slavery International UK, and, of course, Julie Onka-Dolly, who is also the DG of NAPTIP in Nigeria. If you're watching this program, if you're being attracted to leave your country, wherever you may be, by some individuals who are asking you to come either to Europe or to UK or to Lebanon, or where they are asking you to come to, or China, and they've got a good job for you, you got to listen to what people are saying. Sometimes they may not really be what it is like out there, but in case you don't know what you are getting into, if you are in Nigeria, I'm gonna be talking to Julie now to give us how can people reach NAPTIP, and if you are currently in the United Kingdom and you are in servitude, sexual exploitation, Jasmine will be giving us some contacts you can reach out to have some liberty and freedom. Let me turn to you, Julie. Yeah, for our viewers that are watching this program across the world, West Africa, tell us, what can they contact for those that are already been trafficked or about to be trafficked, or already in slavery, or they are being tricked to go out? Who can they speak to? Some contacts? Do you have anywhere?
Yes, we have. They can reach us even on our website. I mean, I'm still going to mention the numbers, but they can, even without calling, they can send reports on our website, naptip.gov.ng. Also on email, info@naptip.gov.ng. They can also reach us on Facebook, NAPTIP Nigeria, Twitter @NAPTIP Nigeria, Instagram NAPTIP Nigeria, YouTube NAPTIP Official, iReport app NAPTIP iReport. All of these people are internet savvy, I can assure you, because we get a lot of reports from them, even on the social media. So we get reports that way, so they can always report cases. Of course, we have numbers, hotline numbers. We have one that is 070-30000203. We have one that is 0800 2255 627847. I can take it again, 0703 00000203, 0800 2255 627847.
Okay, all right, thank you so much. If you're outside the country, do not forget to include the country code, which is 234, to what Julie has said. Jasmine, if there are people here in London, in the UK, anywhere, who are in servitude, sexual exploitation, in 50 seconds, how can they reach you? How can you be of help to them?
I think I heard your question. You were breaking up a little bit, but I think if there's an individual in the UK who thinks that they are a victim of exploitation, they can call the Modern Slavery Helpline. That's 0800 0121 700. So if they're a victim, call that number. You can also look for more information on our website, which is www.antislavery.org. That's www.antislavery.org. antislavery.org, and there's lots of useful information on there.
Jasmine, thank you so much for your time today. Very grateful. I know you're very busy. It's been a hard time trying to track you down to come on the program today. Thank you so much, Jasmine. And I'm also aware, Julie, you do have an appointment that you had to push aside to be part of the program today. Thank you so much, Julie, for your time in the program. We are very appreciative of your effort. If you're watching this program, it's important that you understand if you need to travel out, you need to understand why you're going out, for what purpose. Otherwise, you can have your organs harvested, you can become sex slaves, or you can become servant wherever you're going. Be sure of what you want to do. My name is Tunde Alabi. Until we see you again, enjoy your life and keep safe. Have a very good weekend.